make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman made a life by giving. He's the man behind Gift of the Givers, a South African organization with reach far beyond our borders, providing disaster relief around the globe, and is often the very first and sometimes the only aid victims of national tragedies receive. Dr. Kingsley Makubela, former ambassador to Portugal and Kenya, and now CEO of Brand South Africa, joins us in conversation.
We started off in 1992, 6th August 1992. That's when the organization was formed. I keep emphasizing spiritual and faith. You know, a spiritual teacher, a Sufi master in Istanbul, gave me the instruction on the 6th of August 1992. He said, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name will be Gift of the Givers in English. You will help all people of all races, of all religions, of all colors, of all classes, of all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation. And you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. In fact, in what you're going to do for the rest of your life, expect to get a kick up your back. You said, serve people with love, kindness, compassion, and mercy. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, provide water for the thirsty. And in whatever you do, be the best at what you do. Not because of ego, because you're dealing with human emotion, human life, and human difficulty and human suffering. And dignity of man is foremost. He told me in everything, I will know. Meaning, it's a spiritual direction. And the most important thing he told me is, whatever you do is done through you and not by you. So, as ordinary people, if you submit yourself to God Almighty, and you affirm your faith and your belief, the things come to you.
For the benefit of myself and the viewers at home, what is the spectrum of the assistance that you offer? I mean, we always see you in the media in the big disaster relief, but there's a lot of small projects that you're also involved in.
Disaster relief is our main project, but we have 21 categories of projects. Food parcels, feeding schemes, wheelchair distribution, medical interventions, helping with surgeries in hospital when there's a backlog, medical equipment, medical supplies, all for hospitals. Then we have our own counseling and life skill services. We do housing projects. We set up housing developments, agriculture. Right now, we've got a tractor in northern Zululand where it's plowing the ground, giving people fertilizer and seeds to become self-sufficient in terms of agriculture. Bowls throughout the country where we provide water, either through bowls or water tankers or bottled water.
Beaufort West has struck liquid gold. These 5 boreholes in the nearby mountains will churn out 1.2 million litres of water per day.
Then there's projects in sports. There's projects at schools, education projects, library, computer lab, stationery, school uniforms, winter items. Then you have the blanket run, the winter warmth. But we don't only do, we call it winter warmth, but it's more than just a blanket. And our stuff is all new. We don't use used stuff. So it's new blanket, new beanies, new clothes, new shoes, and then you give food, feeding. During the distribution, we help with distribution, collection, and organizing of toys to give to the kids in schools. So there's just a range of things that we do.
Let's, take it overseas.
Overseas is purely disaster response. Because our primary focus is South Africa, in disaster and non-disaster. So right now we have permanent offices in Syria, in Gaza, in Yemen, in Somalia, in Mauritania, in Malawi, and in Zimbabwe. But the war areas is Yemen and Syria. And of course, Gaza, the war comes and goes on and off, but there's also developmental aid. In Somalia, it's famine, it's hunger, plus it's conflict related. So we're there since 2004. And in 2011, when the whole world was leaving Somalia because of all the conflict, the famine had gripped the people. Whilst people were leaving, we took in 200 containers of aid and flew in 13 planes and took in a medical team of 70 people to cover all the hospitals and all the people in every specialty.
It started as a spiritual instruction. Today, 25 years, 43 countries, and more than 2 billion rands of relief aid later, the Gift of the Givers is the largest African disaster response NGO on the continent. The Gift of the Givers support also includes finding and assisting in the release of hostages. Marisa has the story.
Welcome to the press conference with Stephen McGowan and his family. It's been a great journey for him, 5 years and 8 months.
Then I realized that, well, if they try and take me back, I'm going to jump off the car and run. So I said, they're not going to get me back into the desert. So then I realized that I must be free now.
Dr. Suleiman, you've seen catastrophes a dime a dozen. How does your team deal with it when you come back from a mission to debrief and to be able to go back into situations like that again?
It all starts from the beginning. You know, it's about preparing the mind. Remember, my guys are search and rescue guys and medical guys. They've seen disasters,
Sure.
but it's not the same when you go to a mass disaster. Go to an earthquake or a war zone. You have the casualty, you have the looting, you have the gunshots all over, the insecurity, the instability, thousands of people affected, children dying in front of you, gangrene, you have to cut the legs or the hands off. You have all to face all this. You have to guide them. I'm fortunate, I'm two personalities in one. I have the compassion, but I'm ice cold at the same time. So whatever I see doesn't move me. The moment that happens to me, it's time to close shop. I have to leave, because then you can't handle it. So I teach the teams before they go. I have to prime the mind of the teams. And especially when you're going to a war zone, I would say it's very risky, it's very dangerous. If you don't come, I don't mind. You're not a coward. You've got a wife, you've got a child, you can get killed, we can get maimed, we can disappear, it can happen. And then I would tell them that again a few days later. And then they would come to Bramley, and I would tell them that again. And then at the airport. And then before we get in the plane. At every stage I will tell them, rather leave now. And eventually they will all get fed up and tell me, don't you think we have faith in God Almighty? Don't you know we left our wives or our husbands and our children at home? Don't you know that we're going for a greater purpose to serve people? Don't you know that we know that what's ever to happen will happen? And if we are to die, we will die. We are coming here to serve, it's a purpose. And then lastly, they would say, God Almighty will look after us because He knows we are going to help His creation. So basically, that's how we try to put them off. But the teams are South African. They have the Ubuntu spirit. They want to help, and they're highly skilled. You know, and they come from all types of material backgrounds, but they're dedicated to help people in the country and outside the country.
I mean, the number that's been thrown around that you've raised is in the region of 2.1 billion rand.
Generally, we don't ask for funds. We don't go to anybody. We announce, these are the projects. If you want to participate, you're welcome. But I won't come to your door and knock and say, please, Kabelo, can you give me 10,000
So
rand?
it's
will.
volunteer-based, people give in.
People give it. And quite often, because of our reputation, you would find, say we busy somewhere, we didn't get the phone or we didn't see the picture. Somebody would suddenly phone us and say, you know what, we saw this disaster, it's very big, we've put money into your account already. But I say, but we haven't announced whether we're going to do it or not going to do it. No, you have to do it. It's very, very big, the money's in the account already. So you would find people calling us and saying, look, are we going to respond to this? Are we going to respond to this? So it's driven by the public.
Go, shoot!
In the next coming days, we're expecting a huge influx of those casualties, and we will manage them. We have 2 hospitals. The region is called Darkush. It's an area right next to Idlib region. It's so far, in inverted commas, a safer area for us. We run 2 of the largest hospitals in the entire North Syria because most of the other hospitals have been bombed. In fact, many attempts were made to bomb both our hospitals, and damage was sustained, slight damage on 5 or 6 occasions. But we survived that.
What do you say to those people that say, why are you spending all this time and effort helping people in Syria when we've got just as much, to deal with here at home?
First of all, our aid internationally is a very small percentage of what we do locally. We run millions of rands of projects in the country. It's just not highlighted because it's not fashionable. A food parcel or a feeding scheme or a bursary is not fashionable. It's not sensationalist like a disaster. Media covers a lot of that. And over the years, people have come to understood that. And of course, there's millions of recipients in this country to prove that. And South Africans have seen us. That's the first aspect. For the last 2 years, we haven't done anything. The last one was the Nepal earthquake, because there hasn't been a major disaster that requires international response. Next thing is, we're part of the common humanity. Where would the ANC be today if no countries supported them? Where would this government be if no country supported them. If every country thought like that and said we must only help our own people and not help people from other parts of the world or from South Africa, where would we be today? We are there because of the bond of common humanity. Why do we have embassies in countries? It's about building relations. And the best way of building relationships is in terms of hardship. When you respond to countries and people in hardship, they will never forget you, no matter what economic trade and other things you did with them. When you come to people in terms of hardship, they will never forget you. And one day, if you're in hardship, they will come to you. And they've already helped us in this country. In the times of xenophobia, what did African countries say? Didn't we host you? Didn't we keep you in our countries? Weren't we brothers and sisters to you? Why are you doing that to our people? So there's enough argument to say, you know what? We have to give back all over the world, because one day, if we need it, somebody will give back to us.
Sure.
Hello, everybody.
Dumela.
How's it going?
How's
Are you? How's everybody?
What are they packing for here?
Because of the hunger in the country and because of so many job losses and the economy being affected, we've started a program where we're looking at rolling out 100,000 food parcels as a start. We've done it in the Northwest. We rolled out in different parts of the country, Bushbuck Ridge, in Durban, in parts of Western Cape.
So do you create your own?
Yes, when we get items in bulk, we do our own packaging.
Oh, you have your own brand in there.
Yeah. Because we don't want it to be resold.
Yeah.
Okay.
We design our own food parcel items that has to go into the basket, which will give a family of 6 a support for at least 30 days, and it's all items that adults, kids, everybody can use.
How big is your staff?
We got 100 staff nationwide. We have 5 offices and 4 warehouses. This is our biggest facility, but we have a warehouse in the airport in King Shaka, given to us by KZN government last year. The 25
Most of the people here volunteers.
No. My staff are all full-time. Volunteers are only for the disaster missions. So my staff are all well-trained. A lot of them live on-site. So we can function Monday to Sunday, even on Christmas.
Sure.
That's why we move so fast.
Live on site, eh?
Yeah. There's all houses, there's all rooms built here on site.
You guys are doing a fantastic job, huh?
How important is having, Dr. Suleiman and the organization he has formed in South Africa?
Well, Dr. Suleiman and Gift of the Givers, they are an embodiment of the good that South African can offer. They showcase the best that we have, albeit the challenges that we have, be it resources, limitations of skill, but they respond to challenges around the world, which is in line with building a better world for all of us. So they are a symbol of goodwill from South Africans to the world and from South Africans to South Africans.
So, we've been traversing the country, speaking to, various number of fantastic South Africans doing amazing things, faced with different challenges. What words of encouragement would you like to give them to keep on pressing on and doing the good that we need in our country?
Everything in life is about intention. That's our belief system. If you have a good intention and a good idea and you're determined to do something, nothing works without faith. Most South Africans, virtually everyone, comes from a basis of faith. And it doesn't matter how much you do. You see, if you try to say 15 million people are affected, I need to help all 15 million, you're going to give up even before you start. It's about making a difference to one life. If you say, I can save one child, or feed one child, or educate one child, you've done a lot. Because, put it conversely, if that was your child that was getting food, if that was your child that was getting saved, if that was your child that was being educated, to you, that's a major reception of kindness. So if you could do that for 1, and then 5, and then 10, and then 15, you must never give up. Because just to make that one difference makes a huge difference to the recipient and their family. And that's what drives us. When we go to a disaster zone, we know we can't help the whole country. We know we can't help the whole suburb. We say we're going to take one street only. Let's make a difference in one street.
We like that message also to appeal to other people to use their capability in changing lives of ordinary people. It's basically like ordinary South African doing extraordinary things, as Madiba said once.
How do we change that perception that we've got nothing to offer on the world stage? I'll ask you, Dr. Makube.
Well, I think this is an embodiment of the little that we have and the little that we can share with the rest of humanity. I think Gift of the Givers symbolizes that, and I think we need to encourage South African in the corporate world, ordinary South Africans, to play their part in creating a better world. The creation of the better world is not only a responsibility of government, it's the responsibility of ordinary South African, business South African, non-governmental organization. And I think here we are. We have a non-governmental organization with good systems and processes, good accountability. The resources they get, they utilize them better. For the last 25 years, we've never had any scandals that emerge out of Gift of the Givers. So they symbolize the best that we have as a country. And I think we can use them as a model as we go around encouraging South Africans to play their part in building this nation.
How important is the nation brand, promoting the nation brand in the Play Your Part series, locally and on the world stage?
Building of the nation brand is the responsibility of general society. And the Play Your Part series that we are having, it's essentially to take the destiny of the country into the hands of ordinary South African, that they can play their role in building these great nations that so many people have made sacrifice for and left it in our hands, and I assume our good hands, that we can build. That's why we're encouraging the different sectors of the society to play their role, to make a contribution in building this great nation. And within the concept of this nation brand, we have the society, ordinary people that are driving, building the nation brand. Our forefathers have made so much sacrifice for this nation brand. We have the responsibility to build it and ensure that we live in good hands. So what we're trying to do is to encourage South Africans in their different disciplines to make a contribution in changing the trajectory of this country. It must be on a positive trajectory. And that's why we really embarking on this Play Your Part, which is essentially a clarion call to ordinary South Africans to make a contribution in building their own country.
What, in your humble opinion, are some of the obstacles that are in the way of social cohesion?
Well, the biggest challenge that we are seeing across, you may have experienced that, is that South Africans, we beat ourselves too much. We focus too much in our negativity, and we don't realize the potential that this country has. And I think what we're trying to call people on is that we're having challenges, no doubt about it, but we should not be defined in terms of the shortcomings that we have as a society. There are a lot of pressure points that are so positive that we can accentuate and lift up this pressure point and encourage people to play their part. And I think the challenge is that we're too harsh on ourselves as a society.
The role of corporate South Africa, where do they fit into the greater scheme?
Corporate South Africa, it's fundamental in the building of the nation brand. They build, they create the wealth for this country. They employ, they create employment for this country. They build the riches that we are having as a country. So they are so fundamental in building the nation brand. And that's why one of our key strategic partners at Brand South Africa is Corporate World. Corporate World has that unique position they occupy, and there are two strategies we can't do without them.
Dr. Suleiman, what keeps you going?
The fact that I'm not suffering, that my family is not suffering. We may not have millions, that's not important. We have food, we have water, we have shelter, you are fine, your kids are well. They're hungry, they got anything to choose from. You go to places in this country, in this continent, and outside the continent, where there is no fridge, no stove, no food, no cupboard, no blanket, no water, no mattress, no transport. And even the mother doesn't have breast milk to feed a child. South Africa is a great country. South Africa is a great country. Let's look after it and develop it. Be grateful. Don't complain about everything in life. You don't know what hardship is all about. This is a life-changing experience because it's about spirituality. I've mentioned it earlier, it's about spirituality. Every single person, for every mission I've taken, tell me those three things. This is a great country. Really, it's a great country. Let's build it together. No time to fight, to have friction, to point fingers at each other. Let's look at the good in each one and let's nurture that good for the sake of our country and our people. And really, we can do big things. Every person can make a difference. It's not about money. Sometimes it's a simple thing as wiping the tear from an orphan's eye or caressing the head of a child. There's merit, there's beauty, there's spirituality in actions of touching like that. or a word of good counsel to the widow, or helping somebody with maths and science. You're upgrading people, you're helping people. And you have, all of us, it's not only about money. God has given us different kind of skills and different kind of talents. But you know what's the best part of it all? That if you really search within yourself, if you're mindful, if you reflect, when you do something, you are not giving, you're actually receiving. Because you will find your soul will get enriched. And my teams, that's the fourth thing that my teams have told me, that when they travel with me, they don't feel they're giving. They feel that we take back more than what we bring, because they themselves feel so spiritually enriched that they said no money can buy this. So we all have that capacity. The only way to understand it is to experience it. And the only way to experience it is to do it.
Get involved.
Yeah, get involved and do it for yourself. And believe me, once you start, you will never stop.
No one has ever become poor by giving. It doesn't even have to be money or your time. A smile, a hug, a helping hand will go a very long way. Share your efforts with us on our Facebook page or on Twitter at Play Your Part SA. I am Kabelo Mabalani and I challenge you to play your part.